Hello, everybody. Hello again. Hello. Today I'm going to be talking about Inheritance. Für meine deutschen Freunde werde ich über Erbe sprechen. Okay? Okay. So, inheritance. And why am I talking about inheritance? So, the theme is timeless wisdom, modern world. And I'm going to be talking about timeless wisdom in the context of what we receive as our inheritance through the Dharma and our tradition, and the modern world in the sense of what we inherit through society and what we've inherited from our families. So what I think is important to clarify is that we don't exist by our own will alone. Yeah? We're not these separate self-made units who sort of are somehow atomized from one another. Our experience, ever since the first moment we were born, since the moment we got up this morning, we have every act that we've done and every situation we've been in has been in relation to conditions, set up by ourselves and others. So, brushing our teeth, we relied on the water and the toothpaste, and our body, which even we didn't create in a sort of biological sense. It's been inherited. And the world as we experience it is the conditions that we receive, and the conditions that we receive from what has been created in the past. And all of the time we are also creating and shaping conditions which come to be the inheritance of ourselves and others in the future. So, what is it that we're inheriting in the modern world? And really, I'm not going to say everything that we're inheriting. This is really a bit impossible actually to say that. This is a very small microcosm of that. So, in Western society, which most of us are pretty familiar with, many of us have a very high degree in some respects of freedom and security, of wealth and education. We've got opportunities to have a career, to lead a life which has some degree of purpose, and we can have a career, we can have family, we can follow a vocation. And that's quite a privilege. Of course, that's not what everyone in the world has inherited at this time. However, although we are, inheriting all these bountiful riches from our society, it seems to be the case for many of us, and I'd expect probably everyone here, that there seems to be a deeper sense that there is more meaning and purpose to be found in life. And that by living those things alone, in the way that conventional society shows us, that's perhaps not enough to live out our true meaning and purpose. And we have also inherited consumerism, as Kusala was talking about yesterday. So in advertising, advertisers are aware that we have a real need for a deep meaning and purpose. However, the way in which that serves advertising and consumerism can be by showing how we can find the things that we deeply yearn for through buying commodities. So, for example, the peace of mind that we want, we might inherit that through buying calming bath oils, or the freedom and change and adventure by buying a modern 4x4 vehicle. I'm trying not to say the actual products themselves. One of my favourites, the passionate, wild, creative company we yearn for through drinking a particular brand of white rum on ice. And that's one opportunity that we can see through consumerism, the way that consumerism offers us what we really, really need. Actually, advertisers know what we really need and what we really want, but they're offering us that in places we can't necessarily find it. And then the other aspect of consumerism is where it maybe sensationalizes and glorifies what is completely banal, to just sort of perpetuate unnecessary buying of things and working in a lifestyle we don't necessarily want to feed that. I was on the train the other day, and I'll give you the most banal quote from an advert I saw. It was, gimme, 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 a naan after midnight. Get that mini fist pump feeling. Just eat, tap the app. So that is what we're up against. Okay. So although we can easily pretend this isn't happening, we can easily pretend this isn't the story we're being fed, it's definitely worth considering what is in our diet, yeah? Not just what we're consuming in terms of food and where that comes from, but everything we're consuming in the modern world. And then taking responsibility for that and considering, do I need to change my diet, yeah? Are the stories I'm being fed ones which I think are going to lead to growth and value for me and other people? Or do I need to start reading other stories? Do I need to start exploring other myths? And we also inherit a great deal of fortune from our families. Okay, for a start, none of us would be here without having had a father and a mother. All of us, yet, would not have this precious human life, which according to the Buddha's teacher is incredibly precious because of the opportunity it gives. If we were lucky, we had a kind and loving parents who helped us to fare in the world. We experienced kinship through being part of an extended family perhaps, and we were taught lessons about how to live in such a way as we don't create more suffering than is necessary for ourselves and other people. We learnt morality. Hopefully we learnt that well from our parents if we were lucky and if we listened. And also many of us, we received financial support, okay? A positive sense of identity. And also protection. So our parents are our guardians in this life. They kept us safe, yet we'd have died if they hadn't, for most of us. And perhaps I was really struck by Kusalasara's metaphor of self-created kingdoms, yeah? I was wondering about this in terms of what we inherit from our parents. And I was thinking that Perhaps it's true to say that we learn how to build our kingdom from our parents. In fact, if you imagine when you're little and you're maybe playing Lego, first your parents maybe show you how to build a castle, and then you copy your parents' castle as a way of learning. So perhaps we inherit more than just Lego building skills. Perhaps we inherit many of the tendencies around how we construct our worlds from our parents. And I need to say that I feel really most of the time incredibly out of touch with how grateful I could be for what my parents have given me. And that was one of the strongest experiences on the Guhyaloka course, was just touching occasionally just what I've received from my parents. And it's sometimes quite shameful to recognise how little I see that. Okay. And yet at the same time, I just wanted to go back to this very quickly, the castle thing. If anyone's read Gormenghast, that's one of the most macabre examples perhaps of what we might inherit through family on the most macabre level as well. So if you haven't, sorry, I have no time. And yet as we become adults, we also often experience that we yearn to be free. And we do, often as young adults, sense that we have a great purpose to live. Now this is very, very healthy and is worth encouraging. Perhaps we do have a great purpose. Although sometimes it appears to be, it's not necessarily in accordance with what our family wants for us. So there's a problem. There's a story from the life of the Buddha when he returns to his birth town following his own enlightenment. If you remember, he was from a wealthy and respected family in the city. He encounters his son, Rahula, who he left when Rahula was very young. The Buddha left home into the homeless life. And Rahula's mother says to Rahula, "Look, That's your father over there. Go and ask him for your inheritance. So Rahula approaches the Buddha and stands in the Buddha's shadow. And he says something very interesting. He says, "Your shadow is pleasant, monk." Now, I've got no time to go into that. It's a very interesting thing. It might be worth considering what's meant by that. And what's also interesting is that the Buddha doesn't allow Rahula to remain in his shadow. He stands up and walks away. And Rahula, however, follows closely behind, saying, "Give me my inheritance, monk. Give me my inheritance, monk." Demanding his inheritance from the Buddha. And then the Buddha says, "Well then, Sariputta," turning to his chief disciple, "let the boy Rahula go forth." So what's happened here? Rahula approaches his worldly father and asks for what convention dictates is rightly his. He stands in his father's shadow and challenges him. But the Buddha is not ruled by convention. And the Buddha has no fear whatsoever of disapproval. Besides, the Buddha has no worldly title or property or position to hand on in reality. So Rahula approaches the Buddha, asking for one thing, and yet he receives more than he bargained for. "Let the boy Rahula go forth." And here the Buddha is not just teaching his son a lesson. Yeah. If he'd given Rahula what he was initially asking for, Rahula would have acquired all the property and prestige that convention hands him, yeah, what his mother would have him inherit from his father. However, he'd also receive all the duty that convention demands of him. And I thought of a good example of this is to consider how little freedom the royal family has. I thought that even growing up about the same sort of age as Prince William, a lot of the time I actually felt incredibly sorry for him. I'm sure he's a very nice man. I don't want to But the Buddha actually knows what is truly good for his son and offers his son perhaps what he really wants from his father. That is his blessing and his freedom. Perhaps that's what every son wants from their father, really. And it's freedom, yeah, not to just go off and indulge. It's the freedom to step onto a path of practice which culminates in the liberation of the human heart and the fulfillment of human life. And the Buddha is able to offer this because he is the heir to a holy lineage. And he's an heir to this through having rediscovered the natural law whereby, through the practice of ethics, meditation, and penetrative insight, one may progress through ever more beautiful levels of human awareness towards final unending peace of enlightenment. And the Buddha inherited this vision at his enlightenment. And at this point, he saw all those Buddhas who throughout time had arrived at this wisdom which was now awoken in him. So why does the Buddha communicate this, and not just in this place, but in other places in the teaching of the Buddha, as an inheritance that he would pass on to his son? So for those of us who have been practicing the Dharma, in fact all of us, perhaps we have a sense of this. Because when we touch on this vision, we see that for us, there's no truer way of life that we would wish to ascend into. And it offers a vision of ourselves and of our limitless potential, which is greater than even any family could hand on to us. Riches beyond any worldly riches. And this this is also a truer vision of life than anything our parents could have ever dreamt of. And this vision, it's not, what I'm not saying is in any way meant to belittle family love. It's precisely because of the strength and power of this love and bond that it makes it such an appropriate metaphor. In the Karaniya Metta Sutta, the Buddha says, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. And this is how we inherit the Dharma, through encountering this boundless heart in those we revere and being loved by it. So it's not a sterile, clean, professional transaction either, the inheritance of the Dharma. The transmission of the Dharma is a deeply intimate and personal matter for all of us, and it demands all of us. It's true friendship, and ultimately it's total friendship. And inheritance is also appropriate because we don't kid ourselves that we did this by ourselves or for ourselves. It's received through love, and it's passed on through love. And it's also inheritance because it's as undeserved as any hereditary peerage. Yeah? We can never earn the magnitude of the love that's on offer. Although we might strive, that love is given freely. And this is the nature of the enlightened mind. And we encounter this legacy through ordination, when we receive both the wealth and riches that the Dharma offers, and the duty and challenge that is also part of that inheritance. And it's a blessing because we don't have to fear being compromised in what we truly believe in, compromised or serve by having to serve meaningless conventions. Yet the inheritance is the noblest and purest lineage imaginable. And it's the lineage of the enlightened ones who would have us live our lives in the most meaningful way for the sake of the liberation of all beings, which is what we truly want. And I think we can probably all relate to this if you've had the courage to sit with your mind for half an hour in meditation. Perhaps it's because you know that you stand to inherit something through that act. If you've approached the Buddha and given an offering, perhaps you've had a sense that the Buddha is offering his blessing to you. Perhaps you've encountered the feeling of coming home to the Sangha. Or even when you're in communication with people, just a sense that there's somehow something very, very familiar about these people. So here we are. We're all heirs to two legacies. The legacy which has been handed on to us by the conventions of modern society, and the fortune given to us by our family and parents. And then there's a legacy of a different order entirely. The legacy of timeless wisdom offered in the open palm of the Buddhas. And perhaps what that's offering us in the open palm is the gift of the true meaning and purpose of our life, which we so deeply yearn for. So what will be our reference point in this lives? What will we commit our life to? Will we ride the waves of the conventional modern life, or will we turn our eyes to the stars? And how will we live to see this legacy passed on and continue to enrich the lives of other beings again and again and again? And if you remember one thing, remember this. This is your life, and this is your inheritance. Okay, thank you.